SFJ 4x4 Studios presents
in my oversized four-wheel drive Jeep.
a Jeep podcast starring industry experts.
Pure monosity. What? Say that again.
With mad scientist Scott Brown,
Use my drill press as a sort of lathe.
our host Neil Simpson,
If one light goes out, they all go out.
filled with shenanigans.
We are really professional with Jeeps.
This is I Speak Jeep.
My best, folks. I swear it. Every day I wake up and I just say, I want to do my God-given best.
And we try.
You're
live. Just
We try.
putting that out there.
I know.
It's okay.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever, however you are joining us. We are so thankful that you are here and part of our Jeep family. Not Jeep fam.
He
You get
does
called a boomer for that.
He does have coffee, just so you know.
I do. I do. And I have more rest than I had last week. This
also
is
true.
the I Speak Jeep podcast, episode number 48.
Mm-hmm.
Number 48. And it's going to be a fun one. And it's obviously they're all fun. And my name is Neil with SFJ4x4.com, Simpson Family Jeeps in
Are you
Conneaut,
sure?
Ohio. I am sure. I am sure that is the case. And I'm rocking my pink. Those of you who are particularly astute, or those who are listening in, I have attempted to wear my pink I Speak Jeep podcast t-shirt darn near every day here in October. Not every actually day. It's not like my lucky shirt.
Yeah.
It's just
he does wash
each
it,
podcast.
people.
Maybe I do, maybe I don't. You know, there's questions. There's questions. Who the heck are you?
I'm this guy.
You're that guy.
I'm the mad
But
scientist.
more importantly, we
Oh, boy.
have the Savage and the Italian Stallion on set, in-house on the production side of things.
Yes.
Poor Scott. That's like 4 episodes in a row
That's
now.
right.
I
And-
just interrupted him.
And I am super jazzed up because this is probably like the most our insurance agent, but we have a really cool insurance agent and we have really cool insurance company, and they're on set with us today, or at least representation from them. Good friend and fellow teammate, honestly.
You done?
No, no, go ahead.
Just
Go
want
ahead.
to wait now.
Okay.
Uh,
Did you hear about? Okay. All right. I'm done. I swear. I
You sure?
promise. I promise. I'm done.
No, you're not.
Yeah. I feel like the turn signal's still on. Still, you might
Turn
in a
signal is
minute.
not on. Turn signal is not on.
Mad scientist Scott Brown. Got it in there.
What else did you do today?
Today I just looked up facts. for
Facts and customer service extraordinaire.
Yeah,
Because I
that-
think we had a whole
beating a dead horse, maybe.
talking point on
Yes.
generalized customer service. So,
Yes.
um,
Yep. I may or may not have been looking up stuff for our product spotlight of the day.
you're like half wiggling.
Yeah. Hiding something.
I see.
Yeah.
Hiding it.
Yes.
Hiding it.
And I would have the actual product, but I couldn't help myself, and it's installed in the Jeep already. So we just
Shoved it right into
it
the
has
Jeep.
the box. So
Oh, no.
it's just a prop.
It's like you wrapped an empty box for
I was
Christmas.
literally having anxiety this morning. I was like, because you know how Greg will go through and he'll just like, I smell a box, and the garbage truck's backing up, and he's like, I'm gonna get rid of all the boxes. I was like, crap, what if it's not where I hid it anymore? That he found it,
He found it and he disposed of the box.
but it was safe.
Oh my goodness!
He doesn't like this area, so if I hide it over here, we're
I
pretty
know.
safe.
I know I'd like to say he respects your vintage restoration space.
No. Tools have come missing.
It's too clustered over here.
Until he gets his own Sawzall, it's not safe.
I see. Of course. So we're going to be talking, as we have alluded to a couple different times in previous conversations. We're going to be talking about insurance and the benefits to it on.
Don't worry about that.
Don't worry about insurance. Or,
No,
all right.
no, the timer that you're pointing out.
The Italian
That's not
Stallion has not started our timer, and if you've listened to any of my
it's only a
podcasts,
generalization anyway.
I was
so.
going to say,
Yeah.
wait, when is the last time you followed the timer?
I pay attention to not pay attention to the timer. Like, I am a person who
It's like
is
it's
keenly
white noise
aware.
in the background.
Yeah,
If it's not
soothing.
there, it's awkward.
Yeah.
Look,
That's
it's been running the whole time. You don't have to worry about it.
Magic.
This is magic. This is magic. I think he shortened our timer.
I think he did.
All right,
No,
we're going to
that's
be
just how long
talking
you've been talking already.
insurance. That is not true. It's not true, Jeffrey.
I don't know what to believe anymore.
I know, right?
Kevin's saying I've been looking forward to this episode.
Awesome. We're so glad that is the case, Kevin, because
I hope you have some questions.
I hope there's some questions, right? My question is, why can't we see our live comments?
Yes.
Because
Italian Stallion
No.
Jeffrey.
Davey has asked me to stream in a higher definition of video, which I don't think our internet's capable of, so our comments are lagging.
Oh,
No,
that's...
I heard a bus.
You
was
know
a
what?
horn.
Listen, folks, if you're joining us, we are working through these processes. And the big thing is...
We all want high quality stuff.
In Savage's, in his defense, I asked him to be able to produce more soundbite video bites of the podcast. And so the challenge when working with all of our social media platforms is we need to be able to grab those little pieces and make them Instagram ready or Facebook ready, and apparently compressing big things into small things and so on and so forth.
Yeah. I don't understand that.
No,
No.
you're good. You do really good with nuts and bolts. Really good with nuts and bolts. Speaking of, what was how's the 36?
It is good. I was able to restore my fuel pump over the weekend.
Restored your fuel pump.
Yep. It's kind of crazy to think, 85 years ago, when your fuel pump stopped working, you didn't throw it away.
No.
You took it off. You looked at it, muscled over it. You probably, had a coffee in your hand and something else in your other hand, and
Cigar.
everything
No, you had a
else.
pipe.
You had a pipe. That's
you had a
right, pipe. And
hanging
you had
outside your
and to
mouth.
puff on it a little bit to think about it.
Yep.
And then you went over and you found the parts on the shelf to rebuild it,
Right.
and then you put it back on, and then you're good to go. And that's $15.
And that's $15. That would not have been $15. That would have been like $3.26.
That's probably true.
All
I was
right,
talking about the
those-
whole job with
the
the
whole
rebuild
job.
kit.
I see.
The kit was probably $350.
So
Anyway,
people who are joining us or listening in for the first time, if you're unfamiliar, the Mad Scientist, and yes, this isn't all Jeep, but it is really geared towards the automotive enthusiast. Scott is actively building a Ford hot rod
I am
in a traditional manner.
pretending it's 1953.
There you go.
Yeah.
And the car itself is a
36 Ford. Yep.
And it is a flathead V8. So if
Yes.
you're just joining us and jumping in the conversation, that's what we're talking about. We're not
Yep.
talking about a Jeep of some sort, but there is some crossover. And if
Yeah.
you've seen any of Scott's other handiwork, you know how good he is with Jeeps. Sometimes it's fun to use other mediums. It's like an
Yeah.
artist or a painter
Yep.
using something else.
And it was fun because this is the actual fuel pump that came off the motor that's currently in the car.
Okay.
And that motor had been out of the middle of the country somewhere in Kansas or something. And there's this goo on it that only a putty knife and lots of sandblasting will take off. And I took
On the fuel pump.
and it was on everything, the
Oh.
whole motor.
Okay.
And I took a picture before on the fuel pump and then after. And somebody was like, man, that fuel pump was rough.
Huh.
I was like, that's been cleaning a lot of that. And now I got to do the carburetor next because it's also covered in it.
And it looks similarly.
Oh, it's just as
So
bad.
I saw a couple of pictures, and if you're, again, joining us for the first time, you can follow Scott on Facebook and Instagram, and we'll have that, those tags somewhere else.
And I also think I did some floor work since last Monday as well, if I'm remembering right. I repaired the tranny tunnel a little bit.
Okay.
Can't remember if I mentioned that last time or not, but I did that. I got some more to do, and then that floorboard will be going in. But I'd like to break it up. A little motor work here, little floor work there.
Yeah, a little body floor stuff.
Yep.
And does that fuel pump have a glass bowl on it?
It has a glass filter.
Yeah. Because I saw the pictures, and it reminded me a lot
so
of my Massey Ferguson tractor.
100%. Yeah, I had an incident. I have an old tractor as well, and in the spring, you have to get the old fuel out, and you fuss at it a little bit and hit it with a hammer, and then the tractor runs the rest of the season just fine.
Yep.
And I dropped it on the deck,
Oh.
and it broke.
Yes.
And I was sad. But thankfully, there's a tractor store in town, and they had one on the shelf.
Yeah, go figure. They
for
actually
other
have
people
those,
that do that,
right?
So thank goodness.
I remember years ago with mine, with that glass bowl, and I was using the tractor to plow, and there I am with my frozen fingers,
that's not good.
trying desperately to get that glass bowl off without.
You're supposed to do it in
fumbling
a
it.
furrowed field, so when it drops, it's fine.
No.
Just put it back in.
No, just subarctic temperatures, trying to make a 60-year-old tractor run to plow.
Yes, with pliers and a hammer.
The stuff we do. Gracious.
Yeah,
Chuck's saying going to be a sweet ride. Can't wait to see it finish.
you and me both.
Right? We're all sitting here with bated breath.
It's been 2.5 years or so far. So
good things come to those who wait.
yes,
right?
100%.
It's a cool build. How does the body style differ from the one that I hauled south last week?
So back then they changed every single year.
Oh,
So it's 100% different than the one that you hauled south.
okay.
In its entirety. The frame would have been even different. So
Really?
it's kind of neat getting into that, realizing how much they changed and how much even half-year stuff changed. And it makes more sense now when we deal with we don't do a lot of Ford stuff when it comes up in conversation, and we joke that they must retool every 15 minutes. I think they're just stuck in a rut from back then.
Right? I was gonna say it makes so much more sense now.
Right. Because a 34 looks completely different than a 35, which is completely different than a 36, which is completely different than a 37.
Every single year.
And then in 38 and 9, they decide, we're bored. Let's make 2 cars that are completely different, and they're also different than the year before that.
Well, they wanted to give you a reason why to go buy a new car.
Yes. Yeah, and they literally did that because they had a standard and a deluxe, and the standard looked more like the previous year. But I got to tell you, there's a lot of differences.
Huh.
The chassis itself from 35 to 40 is very similar, but different.
Huh?
Yeah.
Go figure. The more you knew.
Yeah.
It's
The
like reading
more you
Rainbow.
know.
The more you know.
Yes.
I hear that. Speaking of hauling that vehicle, I heard from the owner. He's very happy. Everything's good. Everything's copacetic. So
That's
I'm happy
awesome.
that it got there. One of the brief stories that I didn't get to share last week, because I don't think I had mentioned the trucker backup, the 3-hour freeway wait time. Did I bring that up last
Yeah,
week?
you mentioned it.
I don't know if you mentioned it on air. That was the one where
I don't think you have the pictures loaded. We had the pictures. We had the screenshots loaded.
This is the one where the truckers were like, "Hey, you shouldn't go up that way,"
right.
and you're like, "But I'm gonna because this is my direction, and we're just gonna wait."
Yeah, you know what I mean? So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go park on the highway with all
Yes.
the other truckers. And it's
cool.
It's literally like a 7% grade over the course of almost 3 miles. And
Dale chiming in. Good morning.
awesome. Good morning, Dale. And I was like, you know what? We just have to keep moving south.
Yes.
And so I'm like, I'm just going to go out, sit on the highway because that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise, as I'm sitting in this parking lot, this truck driver says to me, he goes, you from around here? And I said, no, sir. I'm just going through. He said, you going south? I said, yes. And he goes, well, if you were from around here, I'd tell you a back road, but I don't recommend it. And under any stretch,
Do not pass go.
do not go,
collect
right?
$200.
I was like, all right, well, hey, I'm just going to go sit on the highway because we just got to keep moving south. So we load into the GPS. That's our first mistake.
And he doesn't have a trucker GPS, which we found
I
out
don't
is-
have a
is
trucker
different.
GPS, which is different.
Yes.
I am an enthusiast. I haul my own vehicles.
Yes.
Regionally, certainly these types of specialized trips are the exception, not the rule by
Yes.
any stretch.
He's living through a dream.
Yeah, once every 32 weeks or something.
Yes.
So I'm not following a trucker GPS. I'm following a generalized GPS. It just tells me, hey, fastest route is available.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know any different.
And we should have learned from previous things. We used to, go with this huge RV and this big long trailer,
Yes,
and we put it places sometimes that were not appropriate
not at all.
because the
appropriate.
GPS didn't know that we weren't in the Geo Metro
No.
on the back road.
So the GPS thought I was in the Geo Metro.
It did.
You know what is that? The Dragon's Back?
Oh, Dragon's Tail.
Dragon's
Where they
Tail?
go-
Drive the Dragon's Tail?
Which, what is up with PA roads and being like that?
I mean, it's running the Appalachian.
It's
like I want to
something.
know who plotted those roads.
They were like
The mountains did.
and
The
then
mountains.
and then they got to
God himself planned those roads.
and then they got to Ohio and they're like, we're done. Straight roads from now
I went
on.
to-
Gentle curves.
I mean, you think about it. The turnpike even was like, okay, we're done with these roads, God. We're gonna just make our own right through the mountain.
right through
Well,
the mountain.
They were tired at that point. They're like, listen.
But all the other ones, they're just like, whatever, wherever you tell us.
And if you know any bit of my story, I ended up going to college and then subsequent young adult life in Western Pennsylvania down into Pittsburgh. I came from a world where Cleveland and Northern Ohio was all set up in grids.
Yes.
This was perfect
That's
little
what I was saying.
grids, XY
Square.
axis,
Square, straight line.
straight lines, flat. This was so easy. No, if you run anywhere from Western Pennsylvania down through the Carolinas, just prepare to switch back everything.
And they go 110 mile an hour around the curve.
Yes. Or if you're me and I'm crawling around curves at 8%
Yeah.
grades, vertical grades in first gear, second gear, just dumping clutch and letting her eat,
Chuck's chiming in that Colorado roads are a shit show.
Well,
I can only imagine if we're dealing with the little mountains. we
What it's like
and
through
we
the
have
big mountains.
complaints. The big ones must be a whole nother ballgame.
yeesh. Well, and so I drove this road. The wrong story short is I drove this road. It took me about an hour to go about 13 miles.
That's exciting.
At least I avoided 3 hours of wait time on the freeway.
Yeah.
And I was very conscientious to take very good care of my truck, trailer, and goods on the truck.
I feel like
right?
we got to back up because last they heard. Wait, it sounded like you were just going out to sit in the parking lot on the freeway.
I didn't.
And then the GPS was like, "Hey,
fastest route was
exit
available."
as it sage right."
The funny thing is, it just routed me right off the highway.
Yeah.
I
It's
went
like
from
danger ahead. You're gonna sit for 3 hours.
Totally.
Were you
Totally.
using Waze?
No, I was using Google Maps.
Google Maps.
Google Maps.
We're not young enough for Waze.
Stop it. We are. I'm just using Google Maps. I like it.
Brad's chiming in. Good morning, fellas. Tail of the Dragon.
See, Tail of the Dragon, right?
Yeah.
And I would love to drive that under normal circumstances.
Not in the big rig.
Not in the big rig, though. Not in the big rig. And here's the thing. I end up on this road, and it is comparable by sense to Tail of the Dragon, if you will. And I worked it. I actually had a lot of fun when I got done, but I
Yeah.
could see if I was a pro driver.
Yeah.
Joe Brella's chiming in. What Chuck said. U.S. 550 between Durango and Oroy. No guardrails. They impede snow removal. And I'm sure I said those things wrong.
No guardrails. So I'm trucking through these switchbacks, and I'm going, Jen, look over that edge. Look over I go, that guardrail's not for us, because I got to tell you, if we hit that guardrail, boom, we're gone.
Yeah.
Let's be real. The guardrails aren't
Then
really
you
for
wonder why
anybody
we have
going any
anxiety
amount of
around
speed.
here.
Guardrails are not helping anybody with speed or girth.
That's why they renamed them to guide rails.
That's right. They're just guiding you back onto the road.
Suggested rails.
So the long story short, we ended up with just a line of traffic a mile long behind us because I was the slowest vehicle, and I'm
There's
taking my
probably
time.
There's probably a group around now. Hey, were you stuck behind that black truck too?
There's a Facebook group dedicated to hate and pictures of me running
We got
switch.
Jen going, what?
What? You want to fight a girl? You know what? All of these shenanigans while driving vehicles is a great time to talk about insurance.
Yes.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to bring our insurance agent on set, Greg Joslin, with what the company that used to identify as Joslin Landis Insurance Agency. We'll be right back. Hey, Jeep family, we hope that you're enjoying this content, and we want to make sure that you head over to sfj4x4.com, find some of this cool merchandise, give us a call at our facility, 440-813-3663. Option 1. And make sure that you tune in to our live podcast every Monday at 10:19 a.m. and check out our updates on YouTube on Tuesdays and Fridays. Until then, Jeep on. All right. There we go. Folks, the man, the myth, the legend.
Not the Greg that we always talk about on the podcast.
No, I was
Different Greg.
I was confused this morning. They're like, "Hey, go check and see if Greg's here." I'm like, "What?" This is the wrong Greg.
I was confused as well.
Yes. Yes. Most people listening on the podcast know of our cantankerous, grumpy, not old man,
Yes.
Greg.
Old man before his time.
Yes.
He's the old
performance
man
mechanic.
of the shop, though.
Right? Right, for sure. Might as well be shuffling around in slippers and grumbling.
Pretty much. Pretty
Get off
accurate
my
right
lawn.
there. It's
Get
pretty
off my
accurate.
lawn. No, this is a different Greg. This is our long-term insurance agent with...
Hey guys, thanks for having me on.
There we go.
What do you guys
He's
want to
playing
talk about?
He's
What do you want to
playing
talk
into
about?
that lag so
He's
perfectly.
playing into that lag. I feel like I'm watching like an old Godzilla movie.
There's the subtitles.
Subtitles. Who are you with, sir? That's what I'm asking you.
No, it's Jocelyn Landis Insurance Partners.
Partners.
Yeah, we're located in Conneaut, Ohio. Have been since '94. Ashtabula, Ohio, we have a location as well. And then in 2018, we merged with an agency out of Fairlawn, Ohio, and they go by the name of Siebert Keck Insurance Partners. And
So you get to keep your name, though.
yeah, we get to operate still as Jocelyn Landis, and yeah, it's been a good transition, and
Okay.
we still keep things the same as they've always been. So
Okay.
yeah.
So even through the some of the transitions and whatnot, you're good to hunker down
yeah,
as the company that
Everyone knows and
that
loves.
everyone knows.
exactly.
Right.
Yeah, that was important for us.
So company started by whom?
My dad,
Okay.
Mike Joslin, and my uncle Scott Landis, they formed the agency in Conneaut, Ohio.
Okay.
Yep.
Pretty organic, ground up business, if I recall right. They were the young guns really in the area.
Yeah, they were both agents at an agency in Ashtabula. And
Okay.
And they broke off and started their own gig.
Okay.
Yeah.
94 is a tough time. You know, a lot going on in the world. So I mean, good
Yeah.
for them to
Yeah.
jump in and do their thing, chase the American dream. And of course, they've done appropriate for themselves and have a great reputation. And of course, me personally and my family have been probably since the late 90s been with your family. So
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
And of course, now at this point in time for you guys, it's all the brothers. So your dad, Mike, had 3 boys. And all 3 of you are involved in the business at this point, right?
It's a family affair.
Totally.
For sure. Yeah.
Totally. That's super cool.
Simpson family. It should be Jocelyn family.
Should be Jocelyn Family Insurance,
Insurance,
right?
yeah.
Could be.
Careful, they
should-
might think you sell cars in.
Ah, right. That's,
Yeah.
yeah, everybody's like, can I? It's a dealership.
And then the non-family members will get mail.
yeah, Scott gets mail as Scott Simpson. It happens. It's totally okay.
Yeah.
This is normal. This is nothing to see
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
And of course, you have at a time in your life, you've been a Jeep owner. Your dad's had a handful of Jeeps.
Yeah. I miss it.
Yeah,
Yeah. I miss it a lot.
because yours was a 6-speed, right? It was a
Yeah.
JKU. Was that
I-
the only one you had? Did you have another one?
I had 2. I made a terrible decision right out of college and purchased a brand new 2009 4-door Jeep Wrangler.
Okay.
I had like 2 paychecks under my belt.
Absolutely, you should
Makes
run out
perfect
there. Makes
sense.
perfect sense.
And,
I'm making money. I've got man money now. I'm gonna go buy a money pit.
and I think I learned more in those 5 years of paying those bills about finance than I did through 4 years of college.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is the truth. That is truth. Oh, and then
yeah.
you bought the 2-door.
Yeah, so I kept that Jeep for over 10 years, that 4-door.
Yep.
Yeah, and switched to a 2-door. I bought I think it might have been a 16 maybe.
Yeah, it was gorgeous. Low
Yeah.
mileage.
Yeah, it
Black. Totally built,
And
outfitted,
yeah, I was
gears.
saying, all outfitted with this really cool shop stuff on it.
Yeah,
That's the one I miss. Yeah.
that was a sweet Jeep.
It was.
You put the tube doors on there. You did the
Yep.
wheels. Yeah, you did the lift. You guys did it all. It
Yeah, that was a cool one. But then you had kids.
and then I had a kid.
You had a kid,
Yeah.
right? Of course,
We
that
understand.
changed things.
And don't think I didn't try to stuff a car seat in the back of
We
that
all
Jeep.
do.
We all do. We all do.
And
Yeah.
I had that realization. I'm like, this just
Yeah.
isn't gonna work.
Yeah, we all do it.
Yeah.
And
Even
I mean,
when they can move on their own, it's still a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just more tolerant at this point, or maybe just I yell more, and I'm like, "Get in there yourself!" That's how they climb through Chuck. My daughter has she makes it an activity now. How she can
gymnastics. So,
right? That's what I'm saying. How can
you
she
know.
somersault in or dive through the seats?
Right.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
glad I have doors.
Yeah, you're a Ford.
Slam
you
your
drive
own
the
door.
minivan.
Leave my door alone.
My kids, their only way to get into the truck is to climb up through the bed, and if the top's off, they have to climb up onto the roof of the Jeep first, and then down into the seat.
I've
Yeah,
witnessed it
perfect
first
sense.
time, and that's exactly how Jeffrey's kids enter and exit his vehicle, despite the fact there's no doors. There's no doors on the Jeep, but they're jungle gymming into the top
Yes.
and down into
It's
it.
just a suggestion.
Right, it's the only way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you've been a personal Jeep owner yourself, and hopefully will be again someday. Obviously, your dad flitters in and out of it. He's just an avid car collector himself, or car guy, which obviously, the apple can't fall too far from the tree, right? At least
Right.
an appreciation for it.
Yeah, I could probably do the same if I wasn't a hoarder.
That's right. That's the problem. Scott, you and I are screwed.
Right, I know. My wife's like, "Hey, we're gonna donate one of Evie's stuffed animals." And I was like, "Oh, it's not mine. It's not on my bed." But I'm like, "What? Where is it gonna go? Is somebody else gonna care for the stuffed animal?" And I was like, "I have problems."
My wife, we're working on our large oversized storage unit, and she's like, "I don't want you to junk up the yard." Meanwhile, I'm planning to line all of my junk. I'm like, that's
Orderly.
exactly orderly. I'm gonna line all my junk up.
If it's in straight lines, then it's perfect.
Right, then it's not junk,
Yeah.
And I have my 61 Ford Thunderbird over there, and she's like, "I can see that," and I'm like, but if you sit at this vantage, you can't.
It's always
so
fun.
sit here.
I've snuck his junk into my yard, and then I wait. And then, like 4 weeks later, my wife's like, "What's that back there?" "Don't worry about it. I just like to look at it while I mow."
I really thought that my car would go unnoticed by my wife for a lot longer.
It's white.
It's white. It looks cool. It looks like a cheetah.
We should camo something and hide it and see how long it takes her.
Oh my God, how funny would
That would
be?
be fun.
That'd be great.
All right. We should talk insurance. And you know what? And insuring my fleet of vehicles and
Yes.
project vehicles and classic cars and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
That is what this episode is reasonably dedicated to. And it
Yes.
was a special request from a couple of our listeners, specifically Kevin, who's the only comment that's currently on our screen. But of course, there's a bunch of other ones. We know people are
And
out there.
Kevin's a fledgling Jeep collector.
He is not just he's not a fledgling.
He is.
He's
the
full
collector.
on collector.
Yes,
He's
the
the collector at this
collector.
point. So, Greg, as far as insurance policies are concerned, right, in our automotive industry, probably are the most well-known insurance package or portfolio provider is Hagerty for classic
stuff.
vehicles.
Yeah.
So vehicles that are a little harder to assign
Right.
every day a numeric value to.
The ones that make the general people go, "What?"
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so when we get into customers who have collections
Mhm.
or high value,
Hi.
yep, that's you, or high value vehicles that
I
if
don't
you
know
were to
about
say,
that.
so like my 61 Ford Thunderbird, despite the fact it is so if we say that, and if I go on to Kelley Blue Book right now and put that in, it might tell me it's worth $5,000.
Right.
The reality is, it is literally just the shape of a car, and it's rusty
Yeah.
and it's a mess and whatnot.
I always get heart palpitations when I'm like, do I let the insurance know that it's a shell of a car and I'm working on it or not?
So,
Right.
I mean, with that said, right, and so a lot of people have modified vehicles, and of course, what we do are modifications on both classics and newer vehicles, which add value
But
to the
they
vehicle.
at least add bills. I don't know if they add value all the time.
Well, by traditional car dealership stuff, I mean, at least 10 years ago, they did not. At
Yeah.
this point in time, we are seeing
Well,
a
it
lot of
depends
the
on if you're buying or trading.
Well,
That's what has value.
now
or not.
dealerships
Sure.
are advertising this is uplifted.
correct.
Yes.
Now dealerships are actually trying to sell it with the add-ons. Has the insurance industry kind of stayed the course, stayed the pace with us. And how do we ensure those types of things?
Yeah, well, you guys already brought up a good company name for what you're talking about. And, as an insurance agent, we represent
Yeah, do you want to?
lot of
I was going to
companies.
say, lay down what is your role,
Yeah.
and how does your business work?
right.
Right, because it's not just we all see the general the
Mhm.
video or the on the TV. Call the general now, or call Progressive, or call Geico.
Yeah.
So that's not what you're doing.
No, we're set up as an independent agency is what it's called.
Okay.
And what that means, long story short, is we represent multiple insurance carriers.
Okay.
It can be a regional insurance carrier. It can be a national insurance carrier. It's who, we sign a contract with to do business.
And by regional,
Mhm.
sometimes that's not the guys. It's not the ones you're seeing advertised on national, TV
Correct.
and radio and podcast.
Yeah.
These are more independent, more, as you said, regional.
They're
They might
regional.
only have
Their footprints in, 10 to 15 states.
sure.
They tend to stay in the more profitable states. From an insurance standpoint,
Sure.
So less injury and
not a
less
high loss
collision.
state. They're not in New York City or California, is what you're saying.
That
Texas,
or the-
everything's bigger in Texas.
yeah, where you're seeing a lot of those catastrophic losses, that type of stuff. Not to
Right.
say they aren't in those states, but there are a lot of carriers we represent that are in this Midwest region. I'll just say that.
Okay.
But yeah, we represent national carriers as well. So, that's kind of how we're set up. We're set up to handle anything and everything. There is a person at our agency that is capable of handling pretty much anything you can throw at us, from property and casualty, personal insurance to commercial insurance to insuring your business to life insurance to health insurance, you name it. So that's how we're set up as an agency. Me personally, I'm in the small business commercial insurance type role. So, when you had me on to talk about insuring your personal Jeep vehicles, I was like, well, that's not really what I do every day. But,
but
You know more than we do.
Yeah, you know more than we do.
that was my hope.
I pay my bills,
Yes.
and I call you when I have a problem.
Yeah.
What I did really was in these couple weeks leading up to this podcast. Oh, first, before we jump into it, I was at an event for Conneaut
Saturday night.
Saturday
Don't
night.
worry, I saw your pictures. That's
Yeah.
me. I was like, oh yeah, look at you, fly boys looking. All right,
Yeah.
yes. All right.
So we go to that, and I'm not in the building for 5 minutes, and a gentleman comes up to me and he goes, "Are you going to be on the Simpson Jeep podcast on Monday?" And I go, "You know what? Thanks for reminding me, number one."
Boy, he really does fit in here.
Yeah.
I had to
Yeah.
get my phone out. I was like, "Oh no, I do, yeah."
Yeah.
And
That's
so
what happens here too.
It was that moment where I was like, "Hey, maybe this Jeep podcast is
It's a thing.
It's a thing. It's
Yeah.
taken off a little more than I
Than
than
you
I
had
knew."
anticipated, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a thing. It is.
And that's a shout out to Paul Clapp. He's I think he's a listener.
Yes.
I'm assuming.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Of all the people that I was going to jump out with,
That was
Paul
not him.
was not who I was going to lead with.
No.
I was like in my back of my brain. I was like, oh, I know who that might be. Blah blah blah. And I was like, nope, not.
Yeah.
Okay, Paul, way to represent, man.
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty cool. I was like,
Yes.
oh, I
Yeah.
got to lead with that. As soon
That's
as
cool.
I get on the show.
Yes.
Now you just got to change your lifestyle because things have really getting weird when you're on the podcast all the time.
Yeah. People are like,
it's you.
it's you. I'm like, I guess.
Yeah. So I want to throw that in there. But
Yeah, for
back
sure.
to the insurance thing. Yeah. So with these types of vehicles, and I actually had some questions for you because when I walk through your shop,
Uh-oh.
No. You see the classic, the collectible type Jeeps, and those for sure. You're gonna go to you guys mentioned Haggerty, but you also have some newer Jeeps.
Right.
I don't know what's the year of that one over there. Is that a 20? Is
So
that a
I
2018,
think
2019?
So we have a 14 and then we
17
have,
and like a
17.
4 or 5 or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've got everything. I mean, we have 2021, 2022, and last
Yeah,
week.
and
Yeah.
so those typically aren't gonna fit a Haggerty type model.
Correct.
They usually have, and I probably should have looked up some stats before I came here, but some underwriting guidelines. But they usually have some things in place where I want to say it's probably like a 2005 or prior where Haggerty will look at your Jeep, something like that.
Yeah, and I should know that, but I don't.
Yeah, and I think it's probably around there where before they'll take a look at insuring your Jeep. But yeah, the advantage to going to a Haggerty to insure your Jeep is you know exactly what you're insuring it for.
Yeah.
You're going to provide the receipts, everything that you've put into it, and you're going to get an agreed value on what you're insuring that Jeep for with Haggerty.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Now,
are you able to do that?
yes.
Okay. So that's important. Now,
Yes.
is that something specific to your firm, if you will?
Yes.
Okay. And then if somebody is not with you, despite the fact that we obviously want everybody to come to you, but
Right.
we do have a national, international listening audience, so
Mhm.
they're not, somebody is not going to call you from Colorado per se. They
Yeah.
could probably, but
Yeah.
they may not. But you are able to offer an agreed upon value.
Yeah, and we are licensed in all 50 states as well.
So if you are listening in Colorado, you should call Greg then, is what I hear.
Call this guy.
yeah,
Yes.
I'll take your call and I'll transfer you to somebody else.
Somebody more qualified to take care of you.
No, but the Haggerty, it's a good place to start when you have that 2005, I want to say, or before,
older.
Yeah, prior to that.
Which-
You're dumping a good amount of money into your Jeep, but then they're also going to have some underwriting guidelines on there too. Like it can't be your everyday driver.
Yep.
Sure.
It can't be something that you're using for heavy off-roading.
Yes.
So those are some of the things that come into play with Haggerty. It reminds me of the couple Jeeps that you have sitting in front of me right here.
Yep.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
They want to know where they're stored,
Yeah,
that they're secure.
exactly.
But they do offer like coverage of spare parts and stuff like that. That's really
got it.
cool.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely an option. For that type of Jeep. Now you get into the newer Jeeps, something that's not going to fit a Haggerty. There are options there as well to protect your investment. The thing about it is, I talked to some claims adjusters
Mm-hmm.
in the last few weeks, kind of leading up to this. Like, hey, what do you guys see in the Jeep Wrangler world?
Sure.
Because they're kind of on the front lines there. They're dealing with the collision claims. We got to replace this.
Sure.
So I kind of want to get their perspective, because I know what I would do as an agent on the front line of writing the insurance policy for you, and that is to recommend certain coverages to make sure the value that you've added to your Jeep, at least in your guys' mind, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
We have receipts sometimes.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And that we do or don't share with our spouses.
Yeah.
So yeah, long story short, there is a way to help you sleep better if you have a newer Jeep with a lot of money put into it. And it could be it's usually as simple as calling us, letting us know what you've put into it, an approximate value, some receipts, it always says
some proof.
so
So
in case
picture.
something were to ever come up. And we can add these endorsements on your personal auto policies, like customized equipment coverage. And I would just recommend having it, because sometimes with insurance, it's the hard part of the job is there's gray areas
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to a claim. And what I have found, just kind of asking around, there's no real specific language in policies to Jeep Wranglers, kind of what you guys do with them. It's a unique niche, right?
Right. It's a
Mhm.
niche.
It's a unique space, and I don't think insurance carriers have sat around a table and said, how are we going to handle these
performance vehicles.
Sounds like we
Jeep
need to get some
Wranglers?
insurance agents out in the Jeeps.
Right. I was going to say we will
Yeah.
will host a run and
And then our
It'll
insurance will go up.
and then our insurance will go up. What are you doing with these things?
Yes.
Let me ask you guys this. Do you guys do, I know you guys have a lot of weekend stuff where you're going places and you have shows. Do you guys ever, the off-roading,
Mhm.
is it ever like races, or is it more of we're just going on a trail,
So there,
enjoy ourselves?
there is off-road racing and competition.
Mhm.
we're not.
Yeah, so
we're
that
not
is
doing that kind of stuff.
an
We're more
aspect.
we're gonna bumble around in the woods slowly.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
If we're doing 5 miles an hour, at least for me, Jeff might
I
have
was gonna
to
say,
do 35.
Scott might be doing a mile per hour. Everyone else is doing 10.
Scott's adrenaline is skyrocketed at 2 miles per hour
Yes.
in the woods.
Yes.
And my other question for you is, do you see so when you guys are going on a trail, is it going to be these Jeeps that have, $20,000-$30,000 pumped into them, or
Depends on the customer, because some don't care. That's why they build them. That's why they invested that money into them, is so that they can use it as a hammer and go out and do those trails. And then other ones want them to be pretty, and then sometimes they shift as the build progresses.
Sure.
It's honestly kind of comical. A trend I've noticed, that people will go out and they'll buy a brand new Jeep and they want to go and do things like it needs to earn its stripes. And then after a while, if it's earned its keep, now we're going to love on it and restore it and put it away and fix all the dents and problems that we've kind of inflicted on the Jeep. And then it's going to be loved on and kind of restored of sorts.
Gotcha.
So it's almost like it has to have seen the things and lived the life before it's allowed to.
Yeah, and I mean, for parts of our industry, for us as individuals, as a company, we like that bumbling about in the woods, wandering in the woods. They're typically pre-described trails. We off-road as a business. We're on approved state highway, OHV, so approved, access points, or we're paying to be at a park or facility that's intended for our vehicles.
Right.
Correct. It's something we're allowed to be on and endorsed to be there.
And honestly, oftentimes many of our facilities that we go to actually require a level of insurance, or at least liability pushback on us as
or
the
a
owner.
waiver of some sort.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then there is an aspect of off-road racing or off-road rock crawling, competitive off-road rock crawling. It's not something we specifically do.
And those are purpose-built, like a NASCAR car or a F1.
I was just going to say,
car.
you're getting into a different bag of worms with that.
Completely.
Yeah.
It may not even be a registered vehicle at that point. It is a purpose-built tube machine for that purpose.
But with that said, I have been 100% privy to a customer who broke off-road, and he's not from around here. He was down closer to Columbus area, and he attempted to file an insurance claim on his axle shaft that broke under what he, and ultimately maybe the insurance company may or may not have determined, was normal use for the vehicle.
I think that's in that gray area
That's in that
about.
gray area,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So is it okay to have a little bit of gray within insurance while if you're trying to plan your best? Let's say we're paying for a premium, like we maybe not the insurance premiums. We're paying for the best package. So we have that customer who has a 2019, and he or she is using it for on-road driving Monday through Friday, and they're at a trail ride on Saturday, and they do break apart,
or even just damage.
Or damage to the vehicle.
They hit a tree.
Right.
Hit a tree.
I see where you're going with it, and
what does that look like to an insurance agency?
what it looks like to me right now is
A whole ugly bag of cats.
Yeah, before you go out onto that trail, I don't know what you have on your Jeep. I don't know what you've put into it. I don't know. And that's how a claims adjuster is going to act too. They're going to come out there and, okay, your blue book on this value. Yeah, you got, we're insuring you for stock bumpers, stock tires, stock rims, stock everything. We haven't been collecting premium on this upgraded, suspension.
So it really depends on how honest you are with your agent, is what I hear.
And I don't even look at it like that. I look at it as I don't have figures in front of me, but it's probably not going to cost you that much more to bump your coverage, add an endorsement for $10,000 that you've put into it, because now you have that endorsement, that rider on your policy that says, hey, I have upgraded this vehicle,
Right.
approximately this value. Here's my proof. Here's my receipts, just in case a situation like that comes up. And the other thing I'll say is, go to the exclusion list on your insurance policy.
That's a good.
Because I checked with a few of my carriers before coming on the show.
Mm-hmm.
There aren't any, off-roading exclusions listed on the ones that I checked.
Okay.
But I know they do exist.
Yep.
So you're saying
so every
in theory,
carrier, every single insurance carrier could handle this differently. Put it on your agent.
Yeah.
Call them today and say,
and that's why you need a good agent.
Yeah.
Right. That's what you need.
Yeah.
My agent just recently was telling me that there's certain carriers that have limits on what you can do too. So you might be allowed to do a $4,000 extra or $10,000 like you mentioned.
Yep.
Other carriers are like, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah, I checked one carrier and they had a $30,000 limit on equipment, and I checked another carrier and theirs was unlimited. So I don't know.
And that's one of the things.
Do we get to know who the unlimited is, or can you recall that?
Well, you got to call them.
That's right. You know what?
Yeah.
Jaws and Landis.
That's
right.
As
you have to call them.
That's why you get a good agent.
So unlimited. Let's say it's unlimited, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So I come to you and I say, hey, I've got this. Let's make it simple. A single vehicle. I have a 2018. It's a newer vehicle, and I have added $20,000 worth of aftermarket upgrades to it.
Right.
What is my next step?
Your next step would be. Did you already call your agent? I missed that part.
I'm calling you. I'm
Yeah.
calling my agent saying, yes,
Yeah.
I have my Jeep. I have it. It's an 18, so the intrinsic value of the vehicle itself is already 38.
Right. Your
40,
next step is to
and I've added 20 at least.
Yeah, your next step is to have your agent talk with your carrier's underwriter and say, hey, customer just reached out. Here's what they've done to their Jeep.
Right.
Let's get this properly insured, because it's so carrier specific.
Okay.
When I say carrier, that's insurance company. It's carrier specific. Sometimes they'll at that time be like, hey, we have a $30,000 limit on what we can add. Hey, they're not off-roading with this vehicle, are they? Definitely no racing. Racing's an exclusion on all these insurance policies.
Right.
So yeah, that would be my overall advice is to document.
Right.
Keep documentation on everything you've done, because at a claim time, they're going to ask for it. It can be difficult, claims. I talked to a claims adjuster this morning. He's had a claim with a Jeep Wrangler in our area that had some significant upgrades and no documentation.
Sure.
I would say that's probably pretty common.
It is.
Right.
And that's where you enter those gray areas. I mean, I'm not saying that you won't have it repaired and replaced with like parts. If you don't have that endorsement, I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
But my point is, why not just be
right,
prepared?
because it could be a couple extra bucks a month, and
Yeah.
you could be having sufficient coverage.
Well, and honestly, it's something that we don't even think about as a Jeep owner that's modified. Like, I've upgraded my Jeep twice and added a significant amount of investment, and something I never even thought of, but I'm over here insuring my classics with
Right.
Haggerty,
Right.
making sure I am covered.
Right.
So
right. So let's
Yeah,
talk about I guess common sense. Seems like to me is like common sense versus what it looks like on paper.
Yep.
Okay. So let's say, and I know, and I'm just going to speak because a couple examples, from us as humans and whatnot. I know your dad has had some cool cars.
Yeah.
Some built muscle cars or fast vehicles. And you're going, okay, well that's a race car. Like I mean, common sense tells me that that's a race car.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So how do you go about we go, hey, that is an off-road vehicle. You have built that thing beyond what the manufacturer originally intended it to be. That CUDA is now beyond what that car originally intended to be. And granted, we're just talking about your standard, collision or deer runs out in front of you and smashes up the vehicle or whatever. At that point in time, we have these performance-driven vehicles. Other than that kind of very distinct, obviously work with my broker and say, hey, this is what I believe this vehicle is worth to. Is this agreed upon value? As long as it fits within your policy. Is there anything additional that we need to do? Because common sense tells me, dude, that's a race car or that's a performance-driven, off-road vehicle.
Yeah.
Is there anything more to do?
I mean, as long as you're not getting into the actual racing aspect, because there's special policies for that as well.
Okay.
No, I mean, that's where you would get in this. We're kind of back to the Haggerty thing with the example that you just gave.
Okay.
You're finding a specialized carrier where if it's not your everyday driver and it's limited road use, but it's these high values, lots of power, that type of stuff, lots of value, you're getting into your Haggerty type area.
Do you have the ability to insure a policy like that, a specialized policy?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
And there's
so it
doesn't
have to be. They could come to somebody like you, or actually to you guys.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, we can insure the racing aspect of it too.
There's
There's a carrier for everything. You know what I mean?
Here's a silly question: is it like two different policies? Then do you have like a normal policy for when you're driving the car on the road, and then when you get to the racetrack, a different policy covers that portion of it?
I would probably. No, I think you're going to end up with a specialty carrier that has one policy for that
both.
vehicle that's used for the racing. Yeah.
And then maybe a rider. Is that correct? Or
yeah, I don't know how many guys are driving their race cars as to and from work.
So in our world,
yes,
all. Yeah, I mean that's why you're on, Greg. I mean because in theory, the majority of our customers are driving their race cars to and from work.
Yeah. And when you say race car, you're talking Jeeps.
Yeah, basically. Right? Yeah, but we're talking.
I think that's where I got confused.
Well,
same difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here, read that.
Chuck is saying Badge of Honor is a Jeep program. If I fall off the Rubicon Trail, that's theoretically coverable, right?
So, I mean, what we're talking about is we actually have these. When I say race car, use that as a generic term for these vehicles that are heavily invested in, right? That are above and beyond what the manufacturer originally intended. However, the manufacturer, in Chuck's specific example, is actually laying out a theoretical roadmap of use of the vehicle, like the Rubicon Trail. Is a trail that you should go, that they're saying, hey, you should take this Jeep that we built, not us, but Jeep. Yeah. You should take your vehicle that you just purchased from us. You should take it and go beat it off these rocks. Jeep is saying that as a corporation.
Without saying it.
I see you, Big Daddy Jeep.
Oh,
I see you.
What's a trail rated
It's not without saying it, Scott.
They're saying it.
Actually saying it. They have a Badge of Honor.
They have
app.
a Badge of Honor, right? And that is what they're saying. They say, go use this Jeep in this off-road capacity.
And we'll reward you with these badges that you put on your Jeep.
I'm with you 100%, Jeffrey. So that is what...
And red flag your warranty.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, so then the customer goes, hey, I want to do that trail better. And they come to a niche business like us, who then allows them to not only do that trail, but maybe camp out of their Jeep or do it with more ease or with more reliability or, confidence. And so, at that point in time, they're doing something that is not just driving to and from their workplace.
Right. Yeah.
This is a curveball for you.
It is a curveball, and it's a loaded question. And as an insurance agent, this is where our professional policy comes in, our errors and omissions, because I can't speak specific to that insurance policy right now.
Right.
I can speak in generalities and say, it's a possibly covered claim, because until you
what
get
does
in,
that mean?
It means that you're going to have coverage.
Oh, okay.
But I can't speak specific to him.
Right.
Totally understand that.
Right. Generalization.
There could be off-road language in your policy that I'm not aware of. I don't know who.
Yeah, it literally depends on each instance. But it is something that you could talk to your agent and set up so that you're like that.
Yeah,
and of course,
that claims adjuster literally opens your policy. And they start reading, and they're going to point to the language in the policy that is going to either approve or deny your claim.
So your job is to make sure that language reflects what you want it to say.
Correct. And
So-
now you can do, you can go request copies of your policies and start reading. That's what we always,
I don't know, Scott. That's maybe you should.
Wow, wow, that's
but there's no way to specifically answer your question without having a copy of the policy. reading.
Interesting.
And
That's why
part
we
of
have
it.
good agents like you that can
That's right. That's what
Right.
read all that for us.
But
So
it's
read that for
it's
us.
at least
and-
like at one time I just thought like, well, I went off road and I just crashed into a tree. That's my bad,
Yeah.
and that's on me. Now, if
Yeah.
I get on the road and I hit a deer on the way home, that's different. And it's kind of
Exactly.
eye opening to see that.
I
It's
think
maybe
that's-
not always the case.
And I think that's how most of our industry takes it, right?
Yeah.
Of course, exposure to risk in an off-road capacity. I think other than some of those really sensationalized videos where Jeeps are falling off of mountainsides,
yeah,
Mhm.
that's pretty-
which obviously I think is kind of such an outlier. I mean,
Yes.
that's a 1 in a million off-road vehicles
Mhm.
happening.
yes.
I think the bulk of our consumers, our viewers, our listeners are wanting to know, I bought this Jeep for $40,000. I put another 25 into it.
Yep.
I am using it on the weekend, but I'm really, if I bump into that tree, that's my
that's on me.
that's on me. That's actually my little badge, right?
Yeah.
Say, oh
That's
yeah, I
a-
was on this trail system, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But when I pull off that trail system and I'm in the local gas station
Mhm.
and I pull out of it after getting my Slurpee and my hot dog
and I get T-bone.
and I get T-boned,
Yeah.
I want to know that, yeah, I was just off-roading it. Yeah, I got this extra 25 in it, but I want to know that my Jeep's going to be covered.
Exactly. And that's where we're recommending talking to your agent about that customized equipment endorsement.
So if I can do a couple takeaways, then is that there's customized equipment endorsement is
Yeah.
one thing you can do.
Mhm.
There's agreed upon value is
Mhm.
maybe a secondary thing you can do.
You can look into your carrier to see if that option's available on your personal auto policy. Obviously, Haggerty has that type of stuff available.
do other policy holders also offer stuff like that, or is that
Not
specifically
policy holders,
well,
but
the
policy
companies.
makers.
the companies?
carriers.
Yes, yeah, and that's where
Carriers.
the agent gets into the underwriting. It's specific to that company, like
And-
what's available to this customer. Here's what they've done. What are the options?
So it's not specifically necessary to go to a Haggerty. You could receive sufficient coverage from your local insurance brokerage whom you like and you've been with for years. Is that fair?
I would check that avenue first to see whatever carrier you're with and have that carrier look into the options of what they have on your personal auto policy. Start there. That's a good place to start.
It's just something when I got with Haggerty, I honestly did not know. I thought that you went to your insurance agent and say they were an Allstate agent,
Mm-hmm.
and that's all they did.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just asking questions with my agent, going, "Where do I go? Who do I talk to for this Haggerty stuff? You guys aren't really set up for classic cars." And she's like, "Oh, well, I can do that."
Yeah.
I was like, "What?"
Right.
It's not on your little sign out there. So it's kind of neat to see your guys' approach. Like, hey, we're not an Allstate, we're not a Progressive,
Right.
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We do
Mm-hmm.
everything, and we're gonna find the best fit for
Yeah.
you. And I think that gives you guys a leg up,
Yeah.
which makes it really nice for your customers.
Thank you. Yeah.
Interesting.
You know what was interesting was I talked to 2 claims adjusters from 2 different carriers.
Okay.
Before I came on your show, trying to get some.
Yeah, some
Hey, what have you
perspective.
seen? No off-roading claims for either of them.
I'm willing to bet that's because most people think like I did. where
Yeah.
it's just like
That's what I was thinking.
I'm not going to do that. It's almost like an honor,
Yeah.
man of my word kind of stuff.
And both carriers also said no off-road exclusions either.
Interesting. Okay.
So dealing with those 2 carriers, I think, the coverage is there if
Right.
needed. Not to say they're not going to pay your claim and say, hey, take a hike after that.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that
But-
ultimately, outside of this one guy that I know broke an axle shaft in using his Jeep, I mean, his argument was, hey, my Jeep is designed to do this.
Right.
He was caught between a
rock and a hard place?
Literally a rock and a hard place. Yeah, unfortunately, literally.
Couldn't help
Because
myself.
he was trying to make that argument with his insurance agency, with actual Jeep, the mothership itself, Jeep Chrysler Corporation, saying,
Yeah.
"Hey, I broke in under normal utilization. Yes, I was not on a state highway
Mhm.
when it happened. but this was normal use.
Right.
And he was trying to get some coverage in that capacity. I think that's the exclusion, not the rule. Again, I think the bigger issue is, how do I insure my performance-driven vehicle, my race car? And then the other piece would be if I have multiple race cars. You know what I mean?
Right.
And blending, I have some of them are classics, and some of them have 10, 15, 20 extra $1,000 in them. You know,
I know specifically Haggerty is uncomfortable with taking your Jeep off road.
Yeah.
They don't like that.
I think if you tell anybody
Right.
who's not used to doing it, hey, I'm going to take my vehicle and go bang it off some rocks.
Yeah,
They're not going to know and like that off. You know, just immediately. I think I was watching a video, TikTok reel, whatever. It was one of the indoor auto shows, and Jeep had their big
Where they take the
ascent
Jeeps
and
up and
descent. Yeah. And I was watching this, and I was listening to the people's reaction. Right, both the person who was videoing it, you could tell that, you know, by how they were talking about it, this was a really big deal. They went up a hill and then they slowly came down a hill, and I thought to myself, well, welcome to Saturday afternoon. But you know, but really, that was to those people who were selling that vehicle in that moment, to the average attendees. I thought, you know what, you're not going to get in your Chrysler minivan and do that, right?
Why not?
And I would expect that the cost also
Italian
changes
stallion.
a little bit. Like specifically with my Haggerty policy, I have too many cars, and one of them's an old grandma 60s sedan. It's 4-door sedan, and it's cheap as heck to insure because they know
It's not leaving.
I'm not doing anything stupid in that 6-cylinder automatic 4-door sedan.
Yeah.
My CJ7 is more a year because, you know, they literally told me it's a Jeep and makes us uncomfortable.
I feel like I feel like if insurance companies interviewed the driver beforehand, Scott's insurance would be the cheapest out of all of us.
That's
Oh my
probably true.
God.
Neil and I would not be able to
No.
afford
No,
insurance.
I mean, at this point in time, I am concerned about how well we are going to be insured following this situation.
Yeah.
What my premiums are going to be. Greg's like, I was walking through the shop, and I was like, I feel like I'm okay.
Yeah.
But honestly, you know, I think, speaking from personal experience, we spoke a week or two ago about one of my trucks that I personally own for my own personal enjoyment. And the problem is with this, and everybody's kind of heard my blingy International. Don't sigh at me. Don't sigh at me. You
Spiky lug nut.
spiky lug nuts. And, you know, we could, if just looking at paper, we could look at that vehicle and I could probably kick a Facebook ad right now and buy not the same truck, but on paper, a similar truck for $4,000.
Yeah.
My truck, however, is not $4,000. And so what I think ultimately you went back, you did a little homework and you sent me, some documentation that had an agreed upon value. And I looked at that and I said, okay, I feel like that's accurate, you know?
And that's part of being honest with your insurance agent. And I think a lot of people in the auto industry, especially the way I was raised anyway.
Totally. The way you were raised, you were like, I got to keep this stuff a secret.
Yeah.
you
And
know?
then when your stuff isn't covered, you're upset. Well, that's honestly your own fault.
Correct.
Because how do they know what to insure you for if they don't know what you have got?
I like this guy, Neil.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And so, I mean, my thing a decade ago, folks, if you're not unfamiliar, I was in a different location, slightly different part of the country, and while a couple of my independent policies were handled with Greg Landis, I was seeking to add some business coverage, and I kept trying to farm out to these different brokerages, being like, hey, this is the business I want to have in your local community. Like, I was trying to start it in Western PA and stuff. And, you know, person after person after person turned me down, right? They were like, they just couldn't conceptualize. It's the idea of telling someone I'm going to go beat this race car off the track. And they were like, yeah, we really don't want to do anything with that. We don't have anything that'll help you with that, blah, 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 over and over again. And what I always said, I was like, the legal eagle world that we live in, there's always going to be a bigger fish out there. So if you get into a litigious situation, there's going to be a lawyer who will take on and fight in the courtroom, and how that's what I believe, right? So you can only have so many waivers and whatnot amongst people. But I have always believed in having good insurance, right? So this whole idea, like these insurance agents were turning me down in Western PA, and I was like, okay, I have to have good insurance to carry my business.
Right.
And or on my vehicles personally, so my wife running around in a built Jeep, she's never going off-road. She's going to school and back, and maybe to the grocery store or, somewhere. I don't want her to get into an accident and then somebody be like, well, that's a company vehicle that's owned by such and such. I'm like, no, we're not going to try and take shortcuts on our personal vehicles. I'm going to pay for good insurance. Is my expectation.
Own the process.
And
do what you're supposed to do.
And then in the moment of need, I hope that the insurance company comes through and fulfills the claim as written in the policy.
You got a good agent.
Well, and it has, and that's important to know. And so I before Greg, it was his brother Aaron, and Aaron used to come in, and in the early years, the lean years, we would adjust the insurance policy accordingly. And I have no problem saying I probably pay double or triple what I originally paid per month. I was talking to another business owner, and he was boo-hooing about $70 a month in his insurance policy, and I was like, I try like closer to like a lot more, like 10 times more. Like, why are you like? I don't want anything to happen. Should something happen,
and that's
I'm also be up
being
a creek.
Honest, and people want to have all and not pay what's actually required for it, and it sucks. When you're trying to, like, say my car. I'm putting in $1 as I can and moving along, and it's sometimes hard to be like, wow, that tax is a lot, or that insurance coverage to actually cover that is a lot.
Yeah,
but that's also part of owning it.
It's like fussing about owning the race car Jeep, the cool Jeep, and being like, I had to put gas in it again today. Like that's what it's for. I'm putting gas in it because I want to use it. Right, I know, and that's human nature. But I don't own a big diesels so that I can complain about them. I own them because I like them, and therefore I want to use them, and I want appropriate coverage, and I want to put fuel in them, and so on and so forth.
Yep.
Exactly.
Before we move on, one of the questions that came in through Messenger actually was, Greg, what's your craziest story
of insurance
in the insurance world?
Oh,
I want to see Scott cringe on this, honestly. I want to hear a good story.
Something somebody tried to get you to
Is it
insure.
going to be like a farmer's commercial?
or not
there.
Chaos, Havoc. What was that guy's? What's that?
Oh, I don't even know what brand. See, that's what the commercials do. Is the commercial, but you can't even tell you what company it's
the guy
for.
who's all beat up and he's throwing his body about. Mayhem.
Yeah.
Mayhem. I couldn't tell you who the insurance carrier is.
That's Progressive.
That's Progressive. Okay.
Again, I feel bad giving specific examples. I don't know who's listening out there.
That's okay.
No,
don't use names.
Generalizations.
Oh,
don't use names.
No, it's a good question.
Or change the names.
The thing, I'll just answer it simply. When you have a serious claim situation, and it always reminds you of why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Okay.
Because sometimes the day-to-day, it's probably just like every other job. Like, I'm writing a policy for this guy. I'm doing a good job trying to make sure they have everything in place.
Right.
But then those moments where you actually see a situation where somebody desperately needs that insurance policy, it's kind of a cop-out on that question.
It is a cop-out. It is a cop-out. It is. We're going to call you out on that.
That's a total.
Yeah,
but
oh man,
I can see, though.
There is just something every month, guys. I mean,
Chuck is saying ball busting is expected. Let's hear a good one.
Here's the thing, and Greg, I'm going to give you the out a little bit because I got to be honest. You made my skin crawl when you threw out our customer's name because I always call it our HIPAA law of customers.
Yeah,
like everybody knows we have these customers. The Jeeps
know.
run around. They have the sticker on the back, but like we never really talk about them.
Yeah,
or unless they out themselves. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which they do all the time.
Unfortunately, what comes to my mind when that question is asked is bodily injury situations.
Oh, I was just like, hey, did a cow fall on a vehicle? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
Scott literally rebuilt a Jeep where the head of a combine tractor fell on it.
Oh, like, it ran it over.
Right.
Oh, a combine ran the Jeep over?
Yeah, there was grain in the
that's
Jeep.
That's pretty extreme to me. Like, that's fine.
The
I don't know
windshield
who
frame
asked the
was
question.
gone.
I don't know who asked the question, but like that's the stuff. Like, how are you sitting there and that comes across your desk and you're like,
Yeah.
Combine ran over my Jeep.
Yeah.
Insurance fraud situations are always interesting. Those are always crazy stories. Those happen, unfortunately, and they're serious situations. I don't think
frequently enough. Huh?
Yeah, I don't think people realize how serious of a situation it is to try and get paid on an insurance claim, and it's not legit.
Interesting.
Those are always kind of like, oh boy, those, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You'll gather around the water cooler for that. You'll I had, a little,
Come on, Greg.
little-
Put it out already.
I mean, the littlest dog you can think of run out in front of somebody on like an ATV, that type of thing.
Okay.
And it's snowballed into a very serious
Really?
claim situation.
Did the person get hurt or the dog get hurt? Who was insured, the dog or the person? I'm
Or
confused.
the ATV.
Do you insure ATVs? What? Did the ATV careen
I'm
off
just saying,
into
how
traffic?
about this? Let's put this. Make sure you have homeowners insurance liability and make sure it's a good limit, because if
I
your
don't know.
dog
If
runs
your
out
dog
in front
runs in front of an ATV.
and causes an accident, it's coming back on you.
Really?
And those are the situations that are just scary. You see the medical bills pile up. They can no longer work because they're injured. Those bills pile up.
It's almost like you're innocently doing something, but
yeah.
then reality comes up and smacks you upside the
And
head.
it kind of goes back to your litigation comment. I mean, you know what's going to happen.
Right.
As soon as somebody is seriously injured or injured, you know what's going to happen. I would just say a lot of situations like that pop up. Like,
Interesting.
and it kind of keeps the job like,
So
Yeah,
have you had to go to court directly yourself?
knock on wood.
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
that would be in like a professional capability capacity, like a
Sure.
errors and omissions type situation.
I see. Yeah. I was just saying, in the world, the litigious world we live in, there will always be somebody to try and fight whatever fight.
Yeah.
For me, I'd rather have a level of insulation or protection in the process.
Mm-hmm.
To try to mitigate that before it has to happen.
And that kind of sparked another thing. I might as well say it while I'm here. Not just talking about the physical damage to your Jeeps or, what you should insure them for, or the values. Just as important is your liability coverage. Go make sure those limits are sufficient. Because I cannot tell you how many times somebody thinks they're insured properly.
Okay.
And you'll look at their policy and they have state minimum required liability limits. And I will tell you, it's not enough.
Interesting.
Especially these days. I mean, what's a life worth?
Yeah. Oh boy. Whoa.
What's
that took a turn.
you know what I mean? Like, you start racking up those bills. It's like, a serious bodily injury claim that you cause in your vehicle. Make sure your liability limits are sufficient. And even over top of your personal auto and a homeowner's policy, go buy an umbrella.
Interesting.
And it's an extra $1 million of coverage that it goes over top of your liability for your home. Dog example.
Mm-hmm.
It goes over top of your auto policy. You cause an accident, cause bodily injury.
And how much would
damage.
an umbrella like that? And that's a 365 umbrella. Like, it's good year round?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not
a
like
personal policy. It goes, it's like a separate policy.
It's a separate policy.
Some companies can attach it to your homeowner's policy.
Interesting.
Cost of it is usually, it's worth it. $300.
And
I don't know. A
Amy's
year.
chiming in. How much would you recommend for liability, since you mentioned?
On personal auto, we usually at least recommend $100,000 per person, $300,000 liability limits, $100,000-$300,000, and then $100,000 of property damage. That's where we like to start.
Okay.
And then we like to show you the next step up from there.
And it's usually not much more to increase that, right?
It's not. You should definitely check it out. And that's kind of where we start when the policy comes across our desk and they have state minimum limits. Like, hey,
And do you know what the Ohio state minimum is?
again, I'm not
or
in personal
Pennsylvania?
lines. I think it's up to like 25,000, 50
Okay.
per person, 50,000
So
per
compared to
accident.
what you're recommending, that's far cry from that.
Yeah, you should probably start at that 100, 300 range.
I feel like we just got schooled. Like somebody came out on 31s and we're like, "Hey, we want to go on the Rubicon Trail." And we're like, "Yeah,
Yeah, but you can't.
Yeah.
No,
That's
you
what
can't.
I just heard.
Right now, every like Willie's guy was like, I rode it in non-directional 30s.
yes."
No, I understand, but it makes it easier if you do it on 35s or
Yes.
37s, right? Totally, and
Or
that's
40s.
the idea. everything's better on 40s. Don't tell my insurance agent. So as far as that liability is all about hurting other people. Is that correct?
And property damage. So
Of others.
Yeah, if you cause property damage.
Collision is
It's a collision coverage for your vehicle in an at-fault accident.
And that's different than like deer and
Deer,
that kind of stuff.
Yeah, animals, they fall under comprehensive. So that's part of your full
And
coverage.
that's another thing, like rubber dumbing me. It's just like, insurance is insurance. There's actually multiple levels of insurance, is what I'm gathering.
Yeah.
And you can expand each one of those individually out too. You can have more comprehensive or more collision.
Yeah, and I know for us,
Well,
like
you can change deductibles.
you can obviously raise and lower your deductibles to kind of fit your policy. I know for me, like some of my vehicles are at like project vehicles that are just sitting in storage.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go all the way down to basically a storage rate.
My agent calls it garbage insurance because it's not getting used.
Well, that's kind of them.
Like, hey, don't drive that with that on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Call me when you're going to drive it. Okay.
Exactly.
And then obviously, there's the ability to add the insurance at that time, if you're going to drive it or something, or set it up for a couple months.
And that's
you're going
something
to use
else
it for the
that
summer.
we should probably hit on. If you have a specific special event, say I'm driving to North Carolina and I do that never. This is just a special thing. Call your agent and they can give you extra insurance just for that trip.
Right? You can do a rider or something for that trip. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, you definitely want to make sure you don't have the what does he call it? Garbage
Garbage insurance.
Right.
Yeah.
The state minimum stuff.
And I work with Neil on that a lot too. It's like,
Right.
you know, I don't ever use this vehicle, so we just have it, rated as storage, comp only. He's insured for fire and theft. But hey, we're going to North Carolina this weekend, so yeah, we got to beef it up a little bit, get the liability back on there.
Now, speaking of fire, so if you're built Jeep,
firefighter.
Well, no, it's an insurance question. If your built-up Jeep is parked in your garage of your house, and your house catches fire, burns down your Jeep.
Yeah, is that your
auto
house
or
is that your auto?
Oh, that's a good question.
I've always heard that was house.
It is house.
I was gonna say, I've always heard that was house.
We just had one where I thought it was, again, I'm not in the personal lines world right now, but I was like, oh, no, your auto policy probably kicks in. But no, it was a homeowner's coverage that.
Which is interesting because now we're back to this. I have a $40,000 Jeep. I put $25,000 into it.
Mm-hmm.
I told my auto insurance policy that it's now worth $65,000.
Yeah, do you have to let your homeowners know?
Do you
as well?
do that with your homeowners?
I think those receipts are going to play a part in that that claim situation. Yeah, even though the home coverage is going to kick in on that, assessing your contents of a home is going to work the same way. They're gonna work with you on assigning values to what was lost.
Now, for that example, I have a lot of music equipment. I actually have an additional policy on my homeowners to cover all that extra equipment.
Yep.
So, and the value is probably slightly greater than what that stuff is because it covers all the other.
Right.
Sure.
So yeah, there's caps on your homeowner's insurance. Like,
so you need to put a rider. Scott, you're screwed.
I'm screwed.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
The garage full of tools is screwed.
Yeah. So they'll say, you'll look at your policy. Here's a value that will pay out for guns. Here's a value that will pay out for jewelry. Here's a value that will pay for instruments.
Nope.
And that's it. So if you have more than that,
can they offset all those on the tools?
Tools is one of those options, Scott.
I'm sure it is.
Tools and
Since I'm not using all the other ones, can they offset it over to the other?
Yeah.
Offset it.
It's my cop-out answer again. Just
fine.
call your agent.
All right, call your.
And
if you're not with a brokerage, a quality brokerage, you
or
should
you
be,
can't
and you should
trust
be with
your
Greg.
agent. then you should talk to this guy.
You should talk to this guy, and he'll find you the right policy for you.
Yeah.
You got about like 5 minutes. We're going to do our hashtag not sponsored product review. If you have any follow-up questions, we will throw one or two of them at Greg prior to signing off for the time. But in the moment, we're going to do our hashtag not sponsored.
And now it's time for our product spotlight.
Hashtag not sponsored.
Spotlight.
Hashtag not sponsored.
So our product not sponsored today is Champion Radiator, which for those who are watching is behind me, is the box. It is designed in the USA, but they are made overseas, but they are held to a higher standard of quality. They have a lifetime warranty. Since we're talking about insurance, it just fits right in on that kind of stuff. They do have a is it a rider where they make you have to do certain things?
What are you talking about? You're trying desperately.
I'm trying to do the lingo so bad. Anyway, they ask that you use.
Tell us about radiators.
They ask you to use proper antifreeze and let's see, was it 50/50 with distilled water, or your warranty is void.
No tap water.
No tap water.
Huh.
Bad stuff. They make them to fit the vehicle they tell you it will fit in. So if it doesn't fit, don't get the hacksaw out. Ask questions. The filler neck.
So we should not send that out to our TIG shop and reform the
maybe.
necks and everything?
We should at least make a phone call first.
Okay.
And then they'll say your warranty is void.
Yeah, I was going to say, they'll say our warranty is void.
The filler neck is billet aluminum on these radiators, unlike some cheaper options that are stamped. And the important note, since they are made overseas, just because the radiator on eBay looks like this radiator,
that's right,
doesn't mean it is this radiator.
That's a big one.
We literally just went through this on the hashtag not a restoration. We had one of those radiators, had a plastic drain, did not fit the grill, was too narrow. But we ordered a Champion. Champion dropped in, pulled it up first time the right way.
Yep.
But if you don't know what you're looking at, they look the same.
And if you look at the stock photos on Amazon, eBay, so on and so forth,
They look the same.
They'll be indiscernible.
Yep.
And I see that conversation online all the time. People are like, "Wow, they're the same thing. They're all no, they're not.
They
you
can
get what you
literally
pay
be
for.
made in the same company or same business,
Same manufacturing plant,
and be different qualities.
Totally.
It all depends on what the person purchasing that product to sell to you asked them to make it.
That interim manufacturer.
And something I thought was cool, they offer a $10 off shipping any item with a radiator purchase. So that is the time to get your overflows and your shrouds and your fans and that kind of stuff. And they have a 10% off scratch and dent area.
Oh,
who doesn't like that?
We love scratch and dent.
So I have one in our personal CJ7. We put one in hashtag not a restoration. They are reasonably priced and they fit.
Cool. That's
in a
and
nutshell.
they cool off a vehicle and they don't explode under pressure.
Yes, and for the Jeep CJ nerds out there, they're the only one of the few ones I know of that offer an HD version CJ radiator.
If you're listening and you're unfamiliar, the challenge with the CJ7s was that for apparently no rhyme or reason, it could have been a 6-cylinder, it could have been a 4-cylinder.
Later, like 4, 5, 6, 84,
84, right.
86.
When he's saying 4, 5, 6, he's talking about 84, 85, 86.
Yep.
Is this convoluted HD. Which is challenging because then in some situations, CJ7s can actually take almost like a YJ or early TJ radiator.
Yeah.
But that's not all things are created equal.
You can find these guys on the forums or be like, I have this really big fan and weird shroud and doesn't fit my radiator. I just bought at AutoZone, because you have the HD cooling system.
100%.
Yep.
And of course, because our Jeeps are Legos, you might actually get your Jeep and it have a 4-cylinder and it has the Iron Duke, but somebody has already swapped in a grill or something else.
Or now it's a 401 and suddenly the 4-cylinder radiator ain't putting up with that.
Yeah, amen to that. So those things are important to consider. Obviously, like I said, Champion makes a great radiator for our applications.
And the nice thing about it is that you're not spending $1,000.
But we do encourage spending $1,000 with our other performance radiators. So,
yes.
There is a time and place for everything.
It's a middle of the road option, and I literally had a conversation about that on some other parts that I'll get all fired up and we'll have an hour-long conversation about. But we have a high-end $1,000 option, and we have a $50 option, and I wish there was a middle of the road champion offers that for the radiators.
Cool. Makes perfect sense. Jeffrey, was there any additional comments that came in for Greg?
No, I don't think so.
Awesome. All right, folks.
We beat him up enough.
We beat him up enough. We talked insurance.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we gave some good, discernible information, folks. If you have those highly modified vehicles and you want to get appropriate and fair replacement value out of them, start the conversation now. That's really what the big takeaway
and
I
if
have.
you don't feel comfortable talking to your agent about it, you should look at your policy because there's a problem.
Request your policy, and then maybe figure out a different agent.
Greg, real quick, what was your agent name again? And then
agency
name, and then do you have a phone number people could contact you at?
Yeah, sure. I'll give you the Greg Landis Insurance Partners, and then out of the Akron area, it's Siebert Keck Insurance. I'll give you both of those names because if you call, it's going to go to.
So where should we call if people are listening in?
You can call just the Conneaut number,
which is
440-593-6880. And then they'll direct your call wherever you need to go. You can ask for me. My name is Greg. You can start with me, Joslin, Joslin, and then I'll get you where you need to go.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, we fully and sincerely appreciate you coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Very
right.
eye-opening.
And people, I know people have been asking about this or a question. We may have some follow-up questions, but I can hit you up on those. And maybe again in the future. And this whole slowly but surely, we've been rolling out this cast of characters that makes SFJ uniquely SFJ. And so this is an important part, right?
Yeah.
Because we, having good insurance and performing at a higher level business, it requires not just what we do in here, but what extends beyond our walls and the services you guys offer. So
I was worried about your podcast ratings today when you used the word insurance in that post. I was like, are you guys just going to plummet today? Nobody wants to talk about this.
Yeah, be surprised, actually. In this community, a lot of people have questions about that coverage and the off-road purposes. And modifications.
And I just want to say to you, Neil, thanks for having your business here.
Yeah.
What a unique little shop in a unique niche market.
Yeah.
To have that right here in Conneaut, Ohio, man.
Isn't that something?
It's something. I wish there was more Conneaut alum like you.
Yeah, right. Who's enduring the pain of being in small town America. I always tell people it'd be so much easier to be like in a big city.
No, but I wanted to say thanks, man. It's a cool business.
It is
and
a cool
if you
business.
guys haven't checked it out, I mean, obviously your listeners.
Yeah,
probably,
a lot of them are, but a lot of them follow on
Yeah.
Facebook. They're further out, and they go, "Oh, I wish I was closer to you guys." Blah blah blah. That kind of stuff. But fortunately, our customers are willing to travel or ship vehicles, which is to our advantage, right?
Right.
We try to make that accessibility available to them. And so a little different is that so many of our vehicles do come in via truck transport or some type of transport, and they're traveling in from a much further radius than us. So.
It has been cool, though. There has been listeners that haven't been in this area that call for questions or for parts or do ship their vehicles to us after listening to us, and we thank you for that.
Absolutely. So, folks, tune in next week. We're going to have another Rip, Roar, and Riot before we head off on some great national adventures. I'll just leave it at that. And then coming up in a couple weeks from then, we're going to have Daddy Jeep himself from his YouTube, Daddy Jeep Garage, on as a guest in 2 or 3 weeks out, somewhere in early November. So, I hope you enjoy this one. If you have extra questions, make sure you hit us up on our Facebook page, or if you're on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, ring the bell, do all that kind of good stuff. Again,
comment.
And comment. And we'll make sure that we have in the link in the description stuff to be able to reach out to Greg and company. If you're listening on your favorite streaming platform, think about heading over there and leaving us a review, letting us know what a good job we're doing. If you don't feel that way, then feel free not to do anything.
Just click 5 stars.
Just click 5 stars and it'll probably be okay.
Yeah.
And obviously, every Monday at 10:19 a.m., you can join us live, and we love hearing from you guys. Until then, fam, Jeep on.
Jeep on.
Jeep on.